For millions of movie fans, John Wayne was more than an actor. He was the face of courage, determination, and old-fashioned American grit. On screen, he rode horses across dusty landscapes, faced impossible odds, and became one of Hollywood's most recognizable legends. To many people, it seemed as though they knew everything about him. His movies were everywhere, his voice was unmistakable, and his larger-than-life personality appeared to leave little room for mystery. But when John Wayne passed away, something unexpected happened. The doors of his private world quietly closed. Behind those doors were decades of memories, personal belongings, handwritten notes, family treasures, and items that almost nobody had ever seen. For years, these possessions remained hidden from the public eye. They sat in storage like pieces of a giant puzzle, waiting to be assembled. Fans wondered what the Duke had left behind. Was it a fortune larger than anyone imagined? Were there private letters that revealed a different side of the famous actor? Were there secrets hidden among the possessions of one of Hollywood's greatest icons? When the contents of his estate were finally examined and many of the items became public, people were astonished. The discoveries did not reveal a mythical cowboy or an untouchable celebrity. Instead, they revealed something far more interesting. They showed a complicated man who loved deeply, worked tirelessly, and kept pieces of his personal history close to his heart. Some of the findings were incredibly valuable. Others seemed surprisingly ordinary. Yet together they painted a picture that was more fascinating than any movie script. John Wayne's journey began far from the glamour of Hollywood. He was born as Marion Robert Morrison, a boy who grew up in a family that experienced financial struggles and uncertainty. There was nothing in his early life that guaranteed fame or fortune. Like countless young people, he faced setbacks and disappointments. As a child, he developed a reputation for being tough and resilient. Friends and neighbors often noticed his determination and strong personality. These qualities would later become essential parts of his screen image. His nickname, Duke, arrived early in life and remained with him forever. The name suited him perfectly. It sounded strong and memorable. Over time, people almost forgot that he had ever been called anything else. As he grew older, his interests centered on sports. Football became his passion, and for a while it seemed that athletics would shape his future. He attended college and dreamed of success on the football field. Then an injury changed everything. For many people, an unexpected setback would have felt like the end of the road. For John Wayne, it became the beginning of something entirely different. After losing his opportunity in sports, he found work at a movie studio. The job was not glamorous. He worked behind the scenes, handling props and doing whatever tasks were necessary. The pay was modest, and nobody could have predicted that one day he would become one of cinema's greatest stars. At first, acting opportunities were small and insignificant. He appeared briefly in films, often without receiving any credit. He was simply another young man hoping for a chance. The road to success was long and difficult. There were moments when he considered walking away from Hollywood entirely. The early years brought frustration and financial hardship. He worked constantly, but remained largely unknown. Then came the role that changed everything. Suddenly audiences noticed him. His commanding presence, distinctive voice, and natural confidence made him impossible to ignore. He became the embodiment of the American hero. Directors wanted him. Moviegoers loved him. Before long, John Wayne was no longer an aspiring actor. He was a star. As his fame grew, so did his wealth. Film after film strengthened his reputation and increased his earnings. Westerns became his kingdom. Audiences expected him to appear fearless and honorable. He rarely disappointed them. Yet fame has a strange way of creating myths. The public often assumes that celebrities live lives of endless luxury and possess fortunes beyond imagination. Because John Wayne spent decades at the top of Hollywood, many people believed his estate would be enormous. The truth was far more surprising. When experts began examining the value of his estate after his passing, the figures shocked many observers. The amount was substantial, but it was considerably smaller than people expected from one of the highest-paid actors of his era. Questions immediately emerged. Had he spent much of his fortune? Had he quietly given money away? Were certain assets hidden or transferred before his death? The mystery surrounding his estate only increased public curiosity. Then came another surprise. Among the most treasured pieces of John Wayne's life were his homes. One property, in particular, captured people's imagination. His waterfront residence reflected both comfort and elegance. It offered beautiful views and became a place where he could escape from the pressures of Hollywood. From the outside, the home seemed impressive. Inside, it was even more remarkable. The house contained furniture carefully selected by Wayne, artwork he admired, and personal items that revealed his tastes and interests. Every room carried traces of his personality. People expected to find expensive decorations and luxurious possessions. They did, but they also found something else. They discovered simple reminders of everyday life. There were books with worn pages, notes tucked away among personal belongings, and ordinary items that had clearly meant something to him. These possessions revealed a side of John Wayne that his movies never showed. He was not simply a larger-than-life movie legend. He was also a father, a friend, and a man who appreciated meaningful keepsakes. One of the most remarkable discoveries involved the enormous collection of memorabilia connected to his film career. There were costumes from famous movies. There were scripts containing handwritten notes. There were awards and pieces of movie history that represented decades of work. Some items carried extraordinary value because they were directly connected to legendary films. Others became valuable simply because they belonged to John Wayne. Collectors were fascinated. Fans were emotional. Each object seemed to tell a story. A hat was no longer merely a hat. A script was no longer simply paper and ink. These things had become physical connections to an icon. Perhaps most surprising of all were the deeply personal possessions. There were family photographs showing moments that the public had never witnessed. In these images, John Wayne did not look like the fearless cowboy of the silver screen. He looked like a proud father. He looked relaxed. He looked human. There were letters that reflected important relationships in his life. Some revealed affection and loyalty. Others suggested moments of sadness and difficulty. Together, they showed a man who experienced the same emotions and struggles as everyone else. The discoveries challenged the public image that had followed him for decades. Movie stars often seemed distant and untouchable. The items found in John Wayne's estate suggested something different. They revealed vulnerability. They revealed sentimentality. They revealed a man who kept memories close. Among the possessions were objects that seemed almost insignificant at first glance. An old driver's license, personal clothing, accessories he wore frequently. Individually, they appeared ordinary, yet they fascinated people. Why? Because ordinary objects often tell extraordinary stories. A driver's license represents daily life. A piece of clothing may remind someone of a favorite film or an important memory. Such items allowed fans to imagine John Wayne not as a screen legend, but as a real person living an ordinary existence beyond the cameras. As more possessions became known, people realized they were looking at a kind of time capsule. Each item captured a different chapter of his life. There were reminders of his early struggles, memories of his greatest successes, evidence of his passions and interests, connections to friends and family. The collection was so extensive that it almost felt as though the actor had simply stepped away and might return at any moment. Yet perhaps the greatest shock involved something entirely different. It was not an expensive costume. It was not an award. It was not even one of his famous movie props. The real surprise was what all these possessions revealed together. They exposed the difference between John Wayne the legend and John Wayne the man. The legend appeared fearless. The man sometimes struggled. The legend seemed larger than life. The man treasured small and personal things. The legend represented strength. The man also valued memories, relationships, and simple moments. In the end, that may be the most shocking discovery of all. After decades of watching him ride across movie screens as the ultimate hero, people finally gained a glimpse inside his private world. What they found was not a mythical figure. They found a human being. They found a man who experienced triumph and disappointment. They found someone who cherished his family and kept reminders of his journey. And they found that behind one of Hollywood's greatest legends was a person far more interesting and complex than anyone had ever imagined. As the details of John Wayne's estate continued to emerge, it became clear that his belongings were much more than expensive collectibles. They were pieces of history. Every item seemed to carry a memory, and every memory raised new questions about the man millions believed they already knew. The public had spent decades watching John Wayne portray brave lawmen, determined soldiers, and rugged cowboys. He represented confidence and certainty, yet the possessions left behind suggested that his private life was far more layered and complicated. One of the biggest surprises centered on his family. John Wayne was not only a movie icon, he was also the father of 7 children. Throughout his life, he tried to balance the enormous demands of Hollywood with his responsibilities at home. It was not always easy. Filming often took him away for long periods, and fame brought pressures that few people could understand. Still, family remained important to him. When details of his estate became known, many people expected everything to be divided neatly and peacefully among those closest to him. Instead, the situation proved far more complicated. The distribution of his possessions raised eyebrows almost immediately. Certain family members received significant portions of the estate, while other relationships became subjects of public discussion and speculation. Observers wondered about the decisions he had made and what they might reveal about his final wishes. Whenever a famous person's estate is involved, emotions often run high. Money is only one part of the story. Memories, treasured possessions, and personal keepsakes can become even more important than financial assets. A watch, a photograph, or a handwritten note may hold greater emotional value than an expensive property. That reality became clear in the case of John Wayne. Some possessions represented important chapters of his life and career. To his family, they were reminders of a father and grandfather. To collectors, they were priceless pieces of Hollywood history. The difference between those perspectives created challenges. As years passed, discussions and disagreements occasionally surfaced regarding certain assets connected to his legacy. These moments reminded the public that even legendary figures leave behind complicated family situations. Yet perhaps the most extraordinary chapter of the story was still to come. For decades, many of John Wayne's personal belongings remained largely hidden from public view. Then came an event that stunned fans everywhere. Hundreds of items connected to his life and career were finally presented to the public. It was almost like opening a treasure chest that had remained closed for years. Collectors, historians, and movie lovers could hardly believe what they were seeing. There were personal belongings that nobody expected to exist. There were pieces of clothing that had accompanied him through important moments in his life. There were documents that offered rare glimpses into his working methods, and there were objects that seemed capable of transporting people directly into Hollywood's golden age. One of the most fascinating discoveries involved his movie scripts. To casual observers, scripts may seem unremarkable. To film historians, they are priceless. Many of John Wayne's scripts contained notes, markings, and signs of use. They revealed an actor who prepared carefully and approached his work seriously. Audiences often assumed that John Wayne simply stepped in front of a camera and naturally became the Duke. The reality was different. Like any dedicated performer, he studied his roles and made decisions about how to bring characters to life. The scripts served as evidence of that effort. They transformed him from an untouchable icon into a hard-working professional who took pride in his craft. Then there were his costumes. Certain hats, shirts, jackets, and accessories had appeared in some of his most famous films. These items immediately attracted enormous attention. For fans, they represented memories of beloved movies. For collectors, they were artifacts connected to cinematic history. Some of these pieces sold for astonishing amounts of money. People were not merely purchasing fabric and leather. They were purchasing a connection to a legend. The remarkable prices demonstrated something important. John Wayne's influence had not faded. Years after his passing, people still felt a powerful emotional attachment to him and the characters he portrayed. Yet perhaps the most touching discoveries were the deeply personal items. Among the possessions were family photographs. Some showed celebrations and gatherings. Others captured quiet moments. In these pictures, John Wayne did not appear as a fearless hero riding across the American frontier. Instead, he appeared as a husband, father, and friend. The images revealed warmth and affection. They showed laughter. They showed ordinary life. For many people, These photographs were among the most meaningful items discovered in his estate because they reminded everyone that celebrities are human beings first. There were also personal letters. Letters have a unique power. They preserve thoughts and emotions in ways that photographs cannot. Some reflected friendships that had lasted for years. Others revealed gratitude and loyalty. Still others hinted at difficult moments and private struggles. Reading about these letters gave fans a sense that they were witnessing a side of John Wayne that had remained hidden behind decades of fame. Then came one of the most unexpected revelations of all. Among his belongings were items connected to interests that many people never associated with him. There were books covering subjects such as history and military affairs. This was not entirely surprising. John Wayne had often portrayed soldiers and historical figures, and he possessed a genuine interest in American history. But there were also possessions that seemed much softer and more personal. They suggested a man who appreciated simple pleasures and cherished small reminders of important moments. The discoveries challenged stereotypes. The public image of John Wayne had become so powerful that many people forgot he had interests beyond movies and public appearances. The items found in his estate corrected that misunderstanding. They painted a fuller picture. Another remarkable aspect of the story involved his awards and honors. These objects represented decades of dedication and achievement. Every trophy symbolized a milestone. Every plaque represented recognition from peers and audiences. Perhaps no award carried greater significance than the honors connected to his role in True Grit. That performance earned him the Academy Award that many fans believed he had deserved long before. For years, audiences had watched him define an entire era of filmmaking. The Oscar became more than recognition for one role. To many people, it symbolized appreciation for an entire career. Seeing these awards among his possessions served as a reminder of the incredible journey he had taken. He had started as an unknown young man working behind the scenes at a movie studio. He eventually became one of the most recognized faces in the world. That transformation seemed almost unbelievable. Yet another discovery left fans particularly emotional. There were everyday possessions that had little financial value. Items like identification cards, personal accessories, and ordinary pieces of clothing suddenly became treasured artifacts. Why? Because they represented normal life. The public often imagined celebrities living in a world completely separated from everyone else. These objects suggested otherwise. John Wayne wore clothes, carried identification, read books, and kept sentimental possessions, just like anyone else. The ordinary nature of these belongings made them extraordinary. Perhaps the greatest surprise was realizing how carefully he had preserved memories. Many people accumulate possessions without attaching deep meaning to them. John Wayne appeared different. Numerous items suggested that he appreciated reminders of important experiences. He kept pieces of his past. He surrounded himself with memories. This discovery changed the way many fans viewed him. On screen, he often played men who seemed emotionally guarded. Off-screen, he appears to have been someone who valued personal connections and meaningful experiences. As more information about his estate became public, interest only continued to grow. People wanted to know everything. What books had he read? Which possessions had remained closest to him? What memories did he preserve? What stories remained hidden within these belongings? The answers did not reveal shocking secrets in the traditional sense. Instead, they revealed something far more interesting. They revealed humanity. The legendary Duke turned out to be a man who treasured family photographs, kept mementos from important experiences, and valued reminders of people he cared about. The discoveries also highlighted another truth. Success and fame do not erase ordinary human emotions. Despite his enormous achievements, John Wayne appears to have remained connected to the experiences and relationships that shaped his life. That may explain why so many people continue to find him fascinating. He represented strength and confidence, yet his possessions suggested tenderness and sentimentality. He appeared larger than life, yet he preserved memories, just like everyone else. He became an international icon, yet he remained connected to his personal history. In many ways, that contrast is what makes the discoveries from his estate so remarkable. People expected hidden treasures,